Welcome back, everyone. If you're new, you came at the right time because today's subject could save your life. Ladies, pay attention. Sometimes the most dangerous love traps aren't the ones you can see. They're the ones that are hidden in plain sight, wrapped in words that sound innocent but are full of red flags. What I want to say about relationships, women don't always say exactly what they mean, but when they do, they always mean what they say. Some phrases are more than just words, they're red flags you should never ignore. When a woman says these specific things, they're not just slips of the tongue, they're clues telling you how she really sees love and how she really sees you. Too many men ignore these signs thinking maybe I misunderstood, or I can change her, but trust me, that path only leads to frustration and regret. Love shouldn't make you doubt yourself or feel unappreciated. It's time to start putting enough value on your time, energy, and feelings to know when it's time to leave. This isn't about labeling or blaming women, it's about protecting yourself, because modern dating is hard. You deserve to be with someone who loves and respects you, and to help you get there, I'm going to share 5 phrases that will let you know it's time to rethink the relationship. So grab a seat, lock in, and let's make sure you give your love to someone who really deserves it, shall we? Let's begin. The 5th phrase you should be aware of is, "Take me as I am." This phrase may sound confident, like she knows who she is and isn't afraid to show it, but more often than not, it hides a deeper problem, and you should pay attention to what's really being said. When a woman says, "Take me as I am," she's not just setting boundaries, she's saying, "This is me, flaws and all, and I'm not interested in improving." Now, don't get me wrong, no one is perfect. You're not, I'm not, and she isn't either. The real red flag here isn't about being flawed. It's about refusing to grow, refuses to compromise, and refuses to make room for the kind of love that makes both people stronger. This partnership, it's about 2 people coming together, navigating their differences, and working to become better for one another. But if you're with someone who isn't willing to meet you halfway, who won't listen to your concerns or take steps to improve, what kind of future does that relationship really have? Here's an example. To put this into perspective, imagine you're the type of guy who's always on time. You value punctuality because it shows respect for the other person. But every time you and your girlfriend make plans, she shows up late. 10 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour. Finally, you bring it up, you tell her. It makes you feel like your time isn't important to her. And instead of saying, "I'll try to do better," she brushes it off. "That's just how I am," she says. "You'll have to take me as I am." Now think about what she's really telling you. She's saying your feelings don't matter as much as is her habits. She's saying she doesn't feel the need to adjust, even if it's something that bothers you. And here's the hard truth. If she won't make the effort for something small, like being on time, what do you think she'll do when something big comes up? Maybe it's a temper she refuses to control. Maybe it's poor communication that leaves problems unresolved, whatever the case. If she's not willing to grow, you'll end up carrying the weight of the relationship alone. And that's not love. That's emotional selfishness. Rather than saying, "Take me as I am and deal with it," a strong, loving woman tells you, "I'm not perfect, but I want to grow with you." That's the difference between someone who values you and someone who wants you to do all the work. Real love isn't about perfection. It's about wanting to show up again and again for the person who means the most to you. If she's using "take me as I am" as an excuse to avoid responsibility or bad behavior, that's your sign. It's not your job to bend over backwards while she stands still. Love only works when both people are moving toward each other, not away. Don't settle for someone who won't grow, respect your feelings, or meet you halfway. You deserve more than that. You deserve a woman who values you enough to put in the work. When you find her, you'll see that love, real, lasting love, was worth every minute you waited. Now let's talk about the 4th phrase. If a woman says it, you must not ignore it. Take a moment to really think about what she's saying. At first glance, it may seem like she's had bad luck with love, like she's been in relationship after relationship with toxic, immature, or rude men, but here's the truth. If she says that every guy she's dated was a nightmare, even though she had nothing to do with the breakups, that's a big red flag, because it means she doesn't know herself, won't reflect, or can't take responsibility for her actions, which is a must in a healthy relationship. This is where a lot of guys go wrong. She starts talking about her crazy exes, and you immediately think to yourself, she's been through so much. She just needs a good guy like me. Wrong. That kind of mindset will land you in trouble, my friend, because here's what's really going on if she has a string of failed relationships. Chances are it's not just about the exes. Sometimes it's about her choices, her behavior, or maybe even the way she handles conflict. And if she hasn't learned from her past, she's only going to repeat those same patterns with you. Think about it. If she's constantly painting herself as the victim in every breakup, what's stopping her from doing the same to you one day? Relationships take growth and self-reflection. If she hasn't taken the time to ask herself, what could I have done differently, then she hasn't grown. And here's the hard truth. If she's not growing, the chances of her building a healthy, lasting partnership with you are next to zero. Here's an example to put into perspective. Imagine she tells you about her last relationship. She says her ex was a liar and a cheater, and the one before him was controlling, and the one before that didn't take her seriously at first. You might feel bad for her, but then ask yourself, why does she keep ending up with these guys? What's the common denominator? Either she's making poor choices or she's playing a bigger role in those breakups than she's letting on. And if she's unwilling to recognize her own part in the pattern, she hasn't learned, she hasn't healed, and she's likely to bring that same baggage into your relationship. Here's what you really need in a partner: a woman who owns her past, a woman who can say, I've made mistakes in relationships, but I've learned from them. That's someone who is mature, self-aware, and ready to build a good relationship. Spoiler alert, no one is perfect. Remember that someone who never takes responsibility for their actions will never take responsibility for hurting you. If she's quick to blame others but never herself, don't ignore that sign. You don't need to be another bad relationship in her story. You deserve someone who says, you're lucky to have me. The prices rise if she's not ready to look in the mirror and respect you. It's time to walk away. Protect your heart and wait for a woman who's ready to love you the right way. Real love is made up of two people who are willing to own their flaws and grow together. All right, guys, here's the third phrase that should catch your attention right away. If a woman ever says, we don't need to define this, you should stop and really think about what you're doing, because trust me, she's telling you something important. You're not a priority in her life. You're just an option. If you stay, you'll only be setting yourself up for confusion, frustration, and heartbreak. Let me explain. When a woman is really into you, she wants clarity. She wants to know where things stand. She wants to know what you're building together. That's just how love works. But when she avoids labels, she's really saying, I want all the benefits of a relationship without any of the responsibility. Some guys will hear this and think she's just being cautious or taking her time, but I'm here to tell you there's a difference between pacing a relationship and refusing to define it at all. If she's not willing to define it, she's keeping her options open, and she can keep the benefits of having you in her life, like your attention, time, and care, while she looks into other options. And where does that leave you? Stuck chasing a connection that's never going to become something solid. A woman who's truly interested in you won't string you along. She won't leave you guessing for months. If she's not willing to put a label on what you are, chances are she's not confused. She's just not serious. Here's the real danger in this, fellas. The longer you stay in this undefined limbo, the deeper your feelings grow. You start investing more of your time, your energy, your emotions, all while she's keeping things casual and stress-free. And when she eventually moves on, because trust me, she will, you'll be left picking up the pieces. She'll already be with the next guy while you're stuck wondering what went wrong. Think of it this way. Would you ever accept a job where the boss says we're not going to define your role, just show up and work? Absolutely not. You'd want to know exactly what your responsibilities are, what your future looks like, and whether the effort you're putting in is worth it. Relationships are the same way you should be. Being clear, just like with any other promise, here's what you should do if a woman says, we don't need to define this, step back. Take a deep breath and be very clear about what you want. If you want something serious and real, then you have every right to say it. Don't settle for being someone's maybe. Set your boundary. If she really wants you in her life, she'll work to make things official. If she doesn't, then my friend, she was never serious to begin with. One more thing to remember, a woman who genuinely likes you will never risk losing you to someone else. If she's okay with keeping things casual forever, it's because she doesn't see you as the one. That's not a knock on you, it's just better to know who's serious and who's not. You deserve the kind of love that makes a woman want to show you off to everyone and build something special with you. So, walk away and find that woman. Okay, guys, now for the second warning sign you can't afford to ignore. If a woman says, you're lucky to have me, it may sound charming or confident at first, but if you look a little deeper, you'll see it's not what it seems. This phrase often means entitlement, not confidence, and if you're not careful, it can create an imbalance in your relationship that makes you feel undervalued and unappreciated. Here's the thing, if someone tells you you're lucky to have me, if someone says, I know my worth, you should feel privileged just to be with them, like they're the prize and you're just the guy they've graciously decided to put up with. But now you have to ask yourself if this is really the case. Where is her gratitude for you? Because a strong and healthy relationship is built on mutual appreciation. It's not about one person feeling superior while the other is stuck proving their worth. Now don't get me wrong, a woman who knows her worth and carries herself with grace and self-respect is magnetic. But there's a thin line between confidence and entitlement. If someone's I know my worth turns into you're beneath me, you have a problem. When someone is full of entitlement, they feel like they have to take everything from the other person all the time. This can lead to an imbalanced relationship where one person is always giving and the other is always taking. Think about how this affects you over time if you don't address it. If she keeps telling you how lucky you are to have her, you'll feel like you have to prove your worth over and over again, and you'll start buying gifts and saying, sorry when you're not in the mood to. Putting her happiness ahead of your own while asking when it will be enough is wrong. Newsflash. It won't be enough because if someone thinks they're the only one adding value to the relationship, they will always expect more while giving, if you loved me, you would, less. And here's where things get even trickier. If she really thinks you're the lucky one, what happens when disagreements arise? What happens when you have valid needs, concerns, or expectations of yourself? Chances are she'll ignore them outright because she thinks she's already doing you a favor by being with you. That's not partnership, that's control. Now I want to make one thing very clear. A truly amazing woman doesn't have to say it. She shows it by how she acts. She values what you bring to the table just as you value her. She appreciates your efforts and matches them with her own. That's the beauty of mutual respect. It's what makes a real connection possible, a two-way street based on love and hard work instead of pride and privilege. If she keeps saying this to you, take a step back and ask yourself if she really makes you feel appreciated or if you feel like you could be replaced at any time. If the latter, you should rethink whether this is the relationship you really want. A partner should lift you up, not bring you down or make you doubt your worth. If she's more interested in making you feel lucky than in building something real with you, she's not the one. Walk away with your head held high and wait for a woman who appreciates you, values your efforts, and treats you as her equal, because believe me, that's the kind of love worth waiting for. Okay, guys, this brings us to the first and arguably the most important red flag you should never ignore. If a woman says to you, "If you loved me, you would listen closely," she means it. This isn't just a casual phrase, it's a dangerous way to control your emotions. And if you're not careful, it can slowly erode your sense of self, leaving you questioning not only your choices, but also your worth in the relationship. Here's the deal. When a woman says this, she's not showing love or communicating her wants. Instead, she's setting up a trap so that your love is constantly called into question if you don't do what she says. It's a power move. In a healthy relationship, it's fine for both people to talk about their feelings and needs. But when someone starts to use your love as a bargaining chip, things start going badly. It's no longer about mutual respect or companionship, it's about control. It may start out innocently enough. "If you loved me, you'd cancel your plans and stay home tonight." You might think, okay, that's fine, that's not a big deal. But it quickly gets worse. "If you loved me, you'd stop seeing your friends." "If you loved me, you'd buy me that." Or even, "If you loved me, you'd..." Before you know it, you're stuck in a web where everything you do is geared toward making her happy just to avoid feeling guilty. Every boundary you set gets pushed, stretched, and eventually erased. And the hardest part is that it's never enough. No matter how much you give, she'll always have another demand, condition, or way to make you prove yourself. And when you finally try to push back, she'll change the story so that she's the victim and you're the one who doesn't care enough or fails to show love. The cycle continues and you lose yourself in the process. Real love doesn't need ongoing proof. It doesn't put you to the test or force you to do what it wants. Fraudulent women will not use emotional blackmail to get what they want. Instead, they will respect your boundaries, accept your choices, and love you for who you are, not what you're ready to do to avoid conflict. If you hear these words, if someone says, "If you love me, you would," you should stop, take a step back, and ask yourself what's going on. Is she expressing a real need, or is she using love as a way to control you? A relationship built on manipulation isn't a relationship, it's a trap. Leave behind feelings of guilt and mental tug-of-war and move toward love where you are valued, respected, and never have to prove yourself to be loved. That's the kind of relationship you deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, the first and possibly most important red flag you should never ignore is if a woman says, "If you loved me, you would listen closely." This isn't just a casual phrase, it's a dangerous way to control your emotions, and if you're not careful, it can slowly destroy your sense of self, making you question not only your choices, but also your worth in the relationship. Here's the deal. When a woman says this, she's not showing love or communicating her needs. She is setting up a trap so that your love is constantly called into question if you don't do what she wants. It's an attempt to gain power, plain and simple, and love, real love. Yes, in a healthy relationship, it's absolutely okay for partners to express their feelings and needs. Relationships thrive on open communication. But when someone begins to tie your love to your willingness to do what they want, when love becomes a bargaining chip, things start heading in the wrong direction. It's no longer about mutual respect or companionship. It becomes about control. And here's where it starts. At first, it may seem innocent. "If you loved me, you'd skip your plans and stay home tonight." And maybe you think, all right, I can do that. It's no big deal. But it doesn't stop there soon. It escalates. "If you loved me, you'd stop seeing your friends." Then it becomes, "If you loved me, you'd buy me this." Or worse, "If you loved me, You'd do exactly what I say if you realize it. You're caught in a web where your every action revolves around keeping her happy just to avoid guilt. Every boundary you have gets pushed, stretched, and eventually erased. And the hardest part, it's never enough. No matter how much you give, there will always be another demand, another condition, another way to make you prove yourself. And when you finally try to push back, she'll flip the script. Suddenly she's the victim and you're the one who doesn't care enough, who's failing to show love. The cycle only continues and you lose yourself in the process. Now here's the truth you need to hear. Real love doesn't need ongoing proof. It doesn't put you to the test or force you to do what it wants. If a woman really loves you, she won't use emotional blackmail to get what she wants. Instead, she'll respect your boundaries, love you for who you are, not what you're willing to do to avoid conflict. If you hear these words, if you love me, would you? I want you to take a moment to think about them. Take a step back and ask yourself what's really going on. Is she expressing a real need, or is she using love as a way to control you? Because a relationship based on manipulation isn't a relationship, it's a trap. Leave the guilt and emotional tug-of-wars behind and walk toward love, where you're valued, respected, and never have to prove yourself just to be loved. That's the kind of relationship you deserve. A good relationship is based on trust, respect, and understanding, not on controlling or manipulating each other. If a woman uses emotional blackmail or guilt trips to get you to do what she wants, it's a clear sign that the relationship isn't based on love. Remember that real love gives you strength, respects your limits, and celebrates your uniqueness. You deserve to be treated with kindness and honesty in a relationship. If you notice any of these bad habits, don't be afraid to leave. Picking self-respect over toxic behavior is the first step to finding the love you deserve.